the New World Order. Welcome to Penguin TV. Well, once again, I'm speaking with my mouth close to the microphone because I'm on a busy coast and I don't want to make too much noise. But I'm actually off on another adventure. I'm going to Warrington, which is in sort of Cheshire, Greater Manchester areas on the border. And I'm going to the Weird Weekend North. And I'm actually going there to speak. I'm a speaker at this event. I've never been to it before, but it looks pretty good. And I'm speaking about Helen Duncan, the psychic, the wartime psychic medium, whatever word you want to use, who was jailed in 1994 under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. Now, this is all to do with, well, supposedly she was fake, but I think something more is going on. I think that it all connects into espionage and wartime secrecy. So I'll be doing my little talk on that. It's a shorter version of a longer talk that I've done elsewhere. Okay, so if you care to accompany me, we shall proceed. Hope you enjoy the trip as much as I am.
I would just like to point out that it is your last chance to get a t-shirt showing a saddler looking askance at some priests tonight. So get your t-shirts while you can. Ben Emlyn-Jones produces ecclesiastical pincushions for a living. In his spare time, he likes to boil cats alive. At first...
What a monster I am. That's right, Richard. Thank you, Richard. Well, good evening, everybody. My name's Ben, and I am a conspiracy theorist. Have I come to the right meeting? Oh, good. Yes, I am a conspiracy theorist. I admit that quite openly. I have a tinfoil hat with me. It's in my bag, waiting in case I need it. At the moment, I don't. Hopefully, I won't. Now, I think I'll be all right, actually, for now. I will put it on if it is necessary. Yes, I am a conspiracy theorist. However, this does not mean that I think everything that happens is a conspiracy, and that's a caricature that is often levelled against people like me. Now, the Earth is not flat, I promise you. It's true. The moon is not a spaceship. Lewis Hamilton is not Barack Obama's son. Even I have my limits. But that was me, the portering Buddha. Yes, I was a hospital porter for 23 years, and that, as I showed you before, I'll go back to that. That's my website, which is called Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. I thought, there used to be a guy in America called Jack McGlan who had a group called Police Against the New World Order, and I thought, what's good for police is good for hospital porters. So that's me. Yeah, I was a hospital porter for 23 years, and I lost my job. I got sacked, and it was in very mysterious circumstances, and guess what? I think it was a conspiracy. And not only that, there are some similarities between what happened to me and what happened to the subject of what I'm going to talk about this evening. Could anyone get me a glass of water? Is that all right? So I should have grabbed one before I started. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, as I said, what happened to me was a conspiracy. What I'm going to talk about tonight is a conspiracy. But I do believe that there's evidence for what I'm going to say. I will be presenting what I think is evidence for what I'm going to say. And there are some remarkable similarities between what happened to me. Thanks very much, mate. Cheers.
It's actually neat gin.
That's even better, even better. Richard, could I have some tonic, please? Yeah, there are some, as I said, some similarities between the two cases. Now, what happened, what I'm going to talk about today, it all kicked off. It's an open case, it's still going on today, but it happened a long time ago. In fact, it happened 74 years ago, but it is still relevant to the world we live in today, I believe. This is the central figure of the subject I'm going to talk about this evening. This is Helen Duncan. Now, she was born in 1897 in Callander in Perthshire, Scotland, and she is a psychic medium. She was a psychic medium, clairvoyant, psychic. There are different words I know, And I know there's different types of mediumship as well. So if I get some of the terminology wrong, I will endeavour not to, but I'm well aware that there's different words for different things within this area, but she is what's commonly known as a psychic medium. Now, there's different, as I said, there's different types of mediums. You get the type, you go to a spiritualist church, and you have the medium who stands at the front and goes, is there anyone here called John? John, Dave, Steve, come on, help me here. That's clairvoyant mediumship, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's the most common form. But there's other forms. There's trance mediumship, which you'll sometimes see done on television, where someone is possessed. You'll get someone who appears to be possessed by a spirit of some kind. There's physical mediumship, which actually creates changes in the world, including the noises like raps, which is that kind of noise. And Helen Duncan was an elite club of mediums because she was a manifestation medium. Now, a manifestation medium is where you is basically where they create images in the air. They actually create images from something called ectoplasm. And these images can turn into figures of your loved ones who've died and other things like that, recognisable objects in very, sometimes like luminous 3D images. It's almost like 3D printing from the spirit world. It's amazing. But of course, this will depend on your opinion, because this, of course, is not universally accepted. And some people will say that Helen Duncan and all mediums and all people like her, what they're really doing is trickery, it's conjuring, it's illusion. But whatever your opinion on this matter, I think you'll still find what I'm going to talk about interesting. Helen Duncan was a person who became quite famous. She was world famous. I don't know if she actually travelled abroad in any way, but I know that she travelled the country, and she appeared in spiritualist churches, in seance rooms, in private sittings, at privately organised events. She would go and she would turn up, and she did earn a living from that way. It was her job. Now, if you Google Helen Duncan's name, before long you'll come across these images, and this is very often this is probably the most common image you'll find of her. Now, these are photographs taken by Harvey Metcalf in 1928, and they were actually published in several magazines, including, first of all, in a magazine in Australia. There's a chap in Australia I know who's been researching this. Now, what you see here is Helen Duncan apparently in a psychic trance. She's actually in a trance, and she is releasing ectoplasm from her body, which is forming into these two spirits. You see these two spirit figures here. Except that's not what's happening, is it? It's pretty obvious that this is not the case. This is not a photograph. That these apparent spirits are obviously dice. I mean, the faces are models. I mean, they look to me like papier-mâché, perhaps, that's been painted. And the bodies have been created by draping a white sheet over the top of them. And the shoulders are coat hangers. You can see very clearly. I mean, the one on the left is one of those arch-shaped coat hangers, and the one on the right is one of those long straight coat hangers with a little bit sticking at the end. And so, what you get is the skeptics will often show you this photo. They'll look at that almost universally. They'll show you this photo and say, look, Helen Duncan was a fraud, we proved it because she was caught in the act. Here's a photograph of her in trance performing, and she's just using dummies. Well, actually, as my colleague in Australia has found out, this is not a photograph of Helen Duncan in trance. This is a reconstruction that she created for the magazine. And she may well have made these dummies herself. She's not pretending. No one's pretending here that these are actually real ectoplasmic entities. These are reconstructions. This is this is not Helen Duncan, obviously. This is not someone in. This is not a manifestation medium, but this is based on witness descriptions of Helen Duncan's performances. This is more likely what you would see if you were at one of her seances. This is what people describe, these big swirls of white substances. It has a pungent smell. It's like liquid. It's like milk almost that forms in the air into shapes, and eventually these shapes turn into sometimes recognisable forms. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about the seance procedure, because seances are actually very rare nowadays. It's something that was more popular maybe a century or more ago. By the time Helen Duncan started, it was kind of declining even then. But very different from a normal spiritualist church service, where you tend to get just a client clairvoyant mediumship, maybe a trance medium, and everyone sings hymns, and they put money in the pot, and then they go home and have a cup of tea, things like that. A seance is very different. It's where they will be in a room, a bit like this one, usually smaller, and this will be at a spiritualist church or at somebody's home. Sometimes people were so keen they actually have rooms in their houses which were set up deliberately to use for these spiritualist events. And there will be a cabinet, and the cabinet is a part of the room that is sealed off behind a curtain, usually a black curtain. And there's a chair in the cabinet, and the medium would go and sit in the cabinet, and the lights would be dimmed. These things were done in the dark. Well, usually there'd be a small light, maybe a small red bulb, less than 40 watts, a very dim red electric bulb, or a candle or something like that. Now, the reason this was, there's several different reasons why this might be. And again, this will depend on your opinion of spiritualism. A skeptic would say this is so that the psychic can hide what they're doing. They can hide their trickery between the, because it's dark. They can have the little strings and the wires and the ghost trumpets and things like that can be suspended, and the people dressed in black, in black clothes can come around the sides, and they can hold the dummies up and things like that. But what the mediums themselves say is that the darkness was necessary, because bright lights could actually harm a medium in trance. It could prevent the ectoplasm forming. If the ectoplasm was already out, it can actually do harm to the medium. It could result in having burns and shock and various kinds of shots and things like that. Now, Helen Duncan actually did all that, but she went to extra lengths. She carried some parts of her procedure were very different to what most other mediums would do. It was very important to her that people believed her. So she put herself through a very undignified process in order, excuse me, in order to inform, just to let her audience know, and that they could trust her, that she wasn't playing any tricks. What she'd do is she actually employed a nurse, and the nurse, what she'd do is she'd go to another room, outside the seance room, and she would strip completely naked, and the nurse would examine her body to make sure she wasn't hiding any props on her person. So this nurse would poke and prod her basically head to toe, every corner she had. You know what I'm talking about. Now, you might say, well, this nurse was employed by Helen Duncan, so if Helen Duncan was committing fraud, then this person is hardly an impartial witness. But Helen used to invite some members of the audience, some of the women who were attending, to watch while this was being done. She was willing to put herself through this what would be a very embarrassing situation, a very embarrassing thing indeed, because she wanted everyone to know that she was for real. So Helen Duncan used to travel. She built a career. She used to travel all up and down the country and appear at various places. Didn't pay. This was her job. She'd be paid for that. That's fair enough. She was doing a job. I don't have a problem with that. And she did earn a healthy living from it. That's fair enough. And of course, you can guess what skeptics say about that. If you're a skeptic yourself, I know what's going through your head. But if you're not, then you might think, well, maybe this is just simply her job. She's actually in very poor health, and she couldn't really do anything else. And her husband was also very ill, and he couldn't work. Now, in World War II, that broke out in 1939, and her business boomed, because there was a lot of demand for her work, because a lot of people were dying. In the end, we had lost 300,000 troops. There were 60,000 people killed in the Blitz. It wasn't quite like the Great War, but it still was enormous. It was an enormous loss, an enormous blow to our country. And not least the fact that we were being attacked at home this time, with bombs dropping. Everyone had to go to their shelter at night. There was a lot of fear, there was a lot of uncertainty. And that, I think, might have led to the situation Helen found herself in, a terrible situation I'm going to describe. Because we look at World War II almost as we would look as a fictional story, because it was such a long time ago. Most of us don't remember it. There's only a minority of people who are alive to remember that. But to be in the middle of it and not know how it ended, especially in the early part when we had the Blitz and we had Dunkirk and things like that, that's a completely different matter. It feels very different. So Helen Duncan travelled, was doing her job, and something happened, which I think was the start of her troubles. In May of 1941, she was performing at a spiritualist church in Edinburgh, and her spirit guide came forward, an old man called Albert. She had several spirit guides, another was a young girl called Peggy. Her spirit guide appeared out of ectoplasm after Helen went into trance, and said, I'm very sorry to have to tell you, he's an Australian, this guy, Albert his name was, that a British battleship has just been sunk. I have 1,400 of her officers and men newly arrived in the spirit world with me now. Well, everyone was dumbstruck. What? A British battleship has just been sunk? What? Now, thankfully, one of the people in the audience was a man called Brigadier Roy Firebrace, who was head of Army Intelligence. He was also a member of the Society for Psychical Research. And so this is why he went to spiritual defence like this. He was interested in the occult. He knew Aleister Crowley. He was one of the basic people like us. He was one of us, basically. And so he was a bit shocked. He went home and called up the Admiralty and he said, "Hey, what's going on? I've heard we just lost a battleship. There's a rumour going around." He didn't say where he found out this information. Is it true? And the person at the other end said, "No, sir, nothing to worry about. It's all right." Anyway, within the hour, he got a call back on the secure phone from his office. The scrambled phone, the encrypted one. It was from the War Office saying, referencing your inquiry you just made, yes, we have lost a battleship. HMS Hood has gone down off Scapa Flow. My goodness, and well, this is true. When Brigadier Firebrace did some more investigation, yes, sure. HMS Hood is an Admiral-class battlecruiser, one of the most powerful ships the Royal Navy possessed. It had been sunk by Prince Eugen, a German pocket battleship in the North Sea. And guess how many people had drowned on board the ship? 1,400. Well, Firebrace was astonished. I mean, as a man in his position, firstly, head of Army Intelligence during World War II, and secondly, someone who's aware of the situation of spiritualism, and he believes in spiritualism, he would have put two and two together, and he realised that Helen Duncan had just revealed something that had not come through the proper channels, and she'd revealed it through the testimony of the dead. He would have understood immediately, Firebrace, and in fact he did. There's a letter in the possession of his daughter. His daughter is still alive, and she has this letter, where he wrote to the War Office specifically recommending that MI5 keep a watch on Helen Duncan. Because he knew that if our side was watching her, the enemies was certainly were, whether we were or not. You see, he realised that it was possible that Helen Duncan might start revealing, through no fault of her own, she was in trance, but she might start revealing classified information this way. Like she did with Hood. That's a picture of HMS Hood sinking. Now, this was very worrying. I mean, you've probably seen movies or read books about espionage where you hear the phrase, we have to kill him because he knew too much. Well, what do you do if you can't silence somebody by killing them? Dead men don't tell tales. Maybe they do. So, we know that Brigadier Firebrace recommended that Helen Duncan be watched. We don't know specifically if MI5 actually did watch her, but I've got reason to think they did, because of what happened. Now, we know that for a while Helen Duncan was allowed to go on practicing. However, things must have hotted up a little bit, because in November of the same year, 1941, she was in Portsmouth at a place called the Master Temple, which is, it was in someone's home. It was just a room above a chemist shop which had been transferred into a spiritualist centre. And once again, Albert came out of the ectoplasm and he said, "I'm very sorry to have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, we've lost another British battleship. I have 800 of her officers and men newly arrived in the spirit world." We don't know who was in the audience to hear that news. But it must have caused a worry, because you see, the ship Albert was referring to was called HMS Barrow, another Admiral-class battlecruiser, and sunk in the Mediterranean by a German U-boat. Now, because this was such a tense time in history, and there was so much uncertainty and fear in the country, the government decided not to reveal officially that the barn had been sunk. Even some members of the crew's relatives have not been told. So this was very, very worrying. I mean, it's possible there's many ways that Helen Duncan could have had access to this information if she was a fraud and if she was basically hot reading. In other words, she heard from some maybe a relative of the crew who had been told that the ship had gone down. That is possible. However, if she was a real psychic and a real medium, then she received government information which the government had chosen not to clarify, not to inform the public about. So this was an unpluggable leak. Now we don't know what happened after that. You could bet there were many hushed meetings, very worried voices in cabinet war rooms about this. It doesn't matter what your opinion of spiritualism is. The fact is, the people very high up, I believe, in government had an opinion about it, that it was real and Helen Duncan was a liability. Now, all this came to a head in January of 1944. Helen Duncan was arrested. She was back at the Master Temple in Portsmouth doing another seance, and the police burst in and they detained everyone. They arrested Helen Duncan. Now, Helen Duncan had been arrested before. In fact, she was regularly getting into trouble with the authorities. She'd been fined. She'd been prosecuted in 1932 and fined. So she had a record. She did have a record, which was taken into account in the situation. And she was expecting that again. She'd be up in front of the local magistrates, slap on the wrist, a few shillings fine, and then let go. But that didn't happen. The case of Helen Duncan after her arrest was escalated to a level in legal terms that she could barely comprehend. And it must have absolutely gobsmacked many, many people who knew her. And there's some really, really confused and shocked them. Helen Duncan was taken to the Central Criminal Court of London and she was tried under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. It's an archaic law which had been on statute. The only reason it was still on the statute books was because they hadn't managed to get to, they couldn't bother to get enough MPs together to repeal it. I mean, MPs are very, very particular about what they debate and what they vote on. If it's about MPs' pay or expenses, then they'll bundle in there like football hooligans, won't they? But to get rid of the 200-year-old law, I complained. But this was a very interesting piece of legislation. It was essentially the first sceptic law. It states that whereby ignorant persons are frequently deluded and dumbfounded, and defrauded, be it further enacted by the authority aforesaid, that if any person shall from and after the said 24th day of June of this year of our Lord 1735 pretend to exercise or use any kind of witchcraft, sorcery, enchantment, or conjuration, or undertake to tell fortunes, or pretend from his or her skill or knowledge in any occult or crafty science. That's what she was charged with. She was basically charged with being a fake medium, taking money on false pretenses, and that was it. But it was here, using this archaic law, which has been dusted off, here in the Old Bailey in London, where she was there along with serial killers and lords and traitors and poisoners and people like that. I mean, talk about it was a rather large sledgehammer to crack a rather small nut, would you say? This is a newspaper photograph from a paper covering the story. You can see the confusion in poor Helen's face there. That's her husband beside her. She's walking towards the Old Bailey for the trial. She was also held on remand. I mean, she was denied bail. Although she was released shortly before the trial began. And this is where it all took place. This is where this amazing real-life courtroom drama happened. This is court number 4 at the Old Bailey. And Helen was sitting there. That's the dock at the front, where the accused is sitting. She was actually sitting there flanked by 2 policemen in case she had a dummy and wasn't afraid to use it. Well, yeah, she was considered a very, very dangerous threat. I mean, Chief Constable Arthur West, one of the principal prosecution witnesses, he gave her a character assessment. He said that She was a pest on society, a heartless exploiter of the grief-stricken and vulnerable. Oh, sorry. That's the jury benches there, and the judge and all his associates sit there. In the pit here, you have the barristers who will be presenting their case and all the clerks and the other people. So this is the stage on which this drama is set, this theatre of war. The case began in March of that year. Now, again, this is going to depend on your opinion, but on one level, you could say it's an open and shut case. Helen Duncan was caught pretending to be a manifestation medium, taking money from people, and it's a lot of money, 12 shillings. It's a lot of money in those days, I can't do the maths right now, but it wasn't cheap to go to one of these events. And she's pretending to conjure up images of the dead when all she was doing was using magic tricks. She was convicted and sentenced to the full 9 months in jail, which, based on the character assessment she had, she richly deserved, did she not? Or is something else going on? Well, we'll have to look and see. I think we've got reasons to be suspicious as this wasn't quite as simple as it appeared. Now, the important thing is to look at some of the personnel involved. Now, for the prosecution, the Crown chose a guy called, no, I'm having a moment, there's Maud, John Cyril Maud, KC. Now, he was one of the top barristers in the country. He had an elite background. He was educated in Eton and Oxford University, where he read law there. And he was a member of one of these quasi-Masonic slippery and furtive inns of court, which barristers join, time for the tinfoil hat perhaps. And what's also interesting about Maud, there's several other interesting things about Maud. Now, he was busy with two cases at the same time. He was in court number 4 with Helen Duncan, but he kept nipping out along the corridor to court number 1, where he was conducting another case at the same time. In his absence, his assistant, Henry Elam, a junior barrister, carried out the case against Helen Duncan. Now, what's interesting here is that, firstly, in court number 1, he was actually defending a man accused of murder in Portsmouth. And the man was, the chief prosecution witness against this man in Portsmouth was the chief of police in Portsmouth, Chief Constable Arthur West, who was the one who was instrumental in putting Helen Duncan away. And the man was acquitted. And the man accused West of trying to frame him. So this is a very, very interesting little question mark over Chief Constable Arthur West, certainly there. Also, the fact that why didn't the Crown choose somebody else? Someone who could devote themselves full time to putting Helen Duncan away. Maybe it's because, along with being a barrister, Maud, like many people during the war, had more than one job. He was also in charge of Section B19 at MI5, so he was an intelligence officer. Section B19 was a wartime unit. It was disbanded at the end of the war, it's hostilities only organisation. But its job was to track down the sources of rumours. So it's the kind of unit that would be deployed to monitor Helen Duncan if the government had decided to take Firebrace's advice and to monitor her. Now, the chief prosecution witness was a man called Lieutenant Stanley Worth, and he was in the Royal Navy's Provost Division. He was also a special constable in the police. He knew Arthur West, the Chief Constable of Portsmouth Police, and they were good family friends. And he lied under oath, because when Charles Loseby, the defence barrister, asked him, Lieutenant Worth, are you a member of the security services in any way? He said, no, sir, that's a lie. But he was never charged with perjury. Now, there's a guy called Robert Hartley who's written a book called Helen Duncan Mystery Show Trial, which is a good title because this was a show trial. And he believes he's discovered the linchpin in this whole matter and exactly why this person was involved. Now, this is all to do with wartime espionage and the fear of Helen Duncan giving away wartime secrets. The person organising it, and Hartley provides the evidence in his book, is the head of naval intelligence at that time, a guy called Commander Ian Fleming. Commander Ian Fleming was one of the top spies in the country. He spied on the Spanish Civil War. He spied on the Moscow show trials, so he knew about show trials. And he was also involved in the disinformation campaign to do with D-Day, and I'll come to that in a minute. Fleming was also a friend of Brigadier Roy Firebrace. He was a member of the SPR. He knew Alistair Crowley, so he was a member of this occult paranormal investigation circle that Firebrace was also involved in. Does the name Ian Fleming sound familiar to you? He's also created the character James Bond and wrote the books, which spawned a very successful film franchise, which continues to this day. The judge in this case was a man called Sir Gerald Dodson, who's the Recorder of London. The Recorder of London is the top judge at the Old Bailey. The most important judge they could possibly get was brought in. In fact, there's a letter from the Department of Public Prosecutions, today called the Crown Prosecution Service, specifically recommending Dodson to preside over this trial of this poor, middle-aged Scottish housewife who would be prosecuted under this archaic piece of legislation. It's starting to look like a bit of a cabal, isn't it? Because Dodson himself was a former Royal Navy officer. He was very sentimental about the Navy. He was involved in Royal Naval charities. There's no direct evidence that these people were in some kind of cabal, but it's starting to look that way. Now, what happened was, the drama took place here. This is the site of the Master Temple. Well, today it's actually someone's flat above a jeweller shop. That shop below there it used to be a chemist shop that belonged to Mr. and Mrs. Homer at the time when Helen was there. And they were keen spiritualists, and they set up, in this room above there, behind those bay windows, was the Master Temple, which they ran through the 1930s and 1940s. They stopped after, because they got a suspended sentence for collusion as well, so they stopped very quickly after that. But what happened was, Helen Duncan was up in that room there, and it was arranged, as I said, there were rows of chairs. I actually filmed in there. The people there around me going to film. I can't show you the video now, but it's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's just a normal flat in someone's house now, a normal room in someone's flat, lounge. But there was a spirit cabinet set up there. There were rows of chairs. People came in through the chemist shop. They went up the stairs at the back. They paid their 12 shillings on the door. Someone took the money, and then they took their seat. Now Helen Duncan had been searched by the nurse, and she was then stitched into a black dress. There was no fastening, she was actually tied into this, and she was taken into the cabinet, sat in a chair, tied down, and the seance began. Now, the police then burst in. The police burst in, the lights went on, they detained everyone. Helen Duncan was basically arrested. That's how it happened. Now, Lieutenant Stanley Worth and his assistant PC Rupert Cross were actually both in there, and they acted as moles. They were sent in there deliberately by the police, and at the right moment they blew whistles, and the police were hiding around the corner. They just burst into the house, and that's when it all happened. Now, this was essentially a battle of witness testimonies between the two sides. Now, the prosecution witnesses, which were primarily Worth and Cross, said that they had gone to the Master Temple in the hope of seeing something really genuinely amazing. They paid a lot of money for it. This is something that they did all the time. I mean, they called it going to the spooks. It was a kind of lad's night out, an alternative to going down the pub or going to a nightclub or something. Let's go to the spooks, guys. Okay, so they went. And they saw Helen Duncan, according to Worth, they saw Helen Duncan prancing around in a big white bedsheet, pretending to be a ghost. That's all they saw. And so Worth then was so angry about this, he decided it was his duty to bring Helen Duncan to justice. And so he called the police, his friend Arthur West, chief constable, and they set it all up. What's the time? How long have I been talking now? Because I can't see the clock on the wall.
It's 10 to 9.
All right, so I started late, didn't I? So this is a short version of the talk. And so basically he colluded with the police, arranged the raid. Now when he blew the whistle, he leaned forward, he grabbed the bedsheet, which Helen Duncan had covering her body, and the police burst in. So, well, as I said, this was a battle of witness testimonies, but the bedsheet would have been an essential courtroom exhibit, wouldn't it? The bedsheet was Helen Duncan was using to cover it. But where was it? That's the question. Now, when Loseby, the defence barrister, when he actually, he was good. Charles Loseby was not a barrister as such. He was a spiritualist campaigner. He was a person who often stood up for mediums who were prosecuted. He wanted to win this case for Helen Duncan really badly, and so he challenged Burton's. He says, "Well, what happened to this bedsheet?" He said, "I'm afraid we lost it, sir. We lost the bedsheets in the chaos of the raid." This doesn't make sense, does it? In the chaos of a police raid, the lights go on, policemen are bursting in, they're sealing the room off, not letting anyone leave. Cross and Worth have their hands on this bedsheet. They lost it. They say someone must have hidden it. This is, you've seen a photo of Helen Duncan, I'll show you another one in a minute. She's no ballerina, she's a big lady. So we're talking a king-size bedsheet here. And they lost it? They said someone must have hidden it. Well, that's a circular argument. Well, they must have hidden it because we couldn't find it. There was no bedsheet. That's simple. Now, the defence witnesses, their story was very, very different. They said that they saw ectoplasm. They saw ectoplasm coming out of Helen Duncan. They saw this ectoplasm turn into people. There was even a parrot called Bronco and a couple of dogs. And Mrs. Ann Potter, who was sitting on the front row, recognised her own mother, even down to the moles on her face. So this was two very, very different stories we're hearing here. And seeing as there was no physical evidence against Helen Duncan, because somehow they lost the bedsheet, there was not what they could do. But Loseby, unfortunately, made a lot of mistakes. He didn't challenge the prosecution witnesses as much as he should. He brought all the defence witnesses. Many of them, I think there were like a dozen, too many perhaps. He didn't keep it simple as he should. And, but he didn't do enough because he was waiting for the next part of the trial. Because he planned to get all the evidence against Helen Duncan dismissed in one foul swoop. He'd get the entire case dismissed in one foul swoop. He had a plan. He wanted Helen Duncan to perform a séance in the court. You can read all about it in his book because the trial proceedings have been published by the Old Bailey. So he petitioned to the judge. If Mrs. Duncan is a materialisation medium, then there is a spirit world near her at this moment, and a guide right here, possibly waiting for an opportunity to help her. Let us call him. Yes, here in the Central Criminal Court of London. Why not? She requires a curtain or partition and a red light. Nothing more. This is the acid test to which she should be willing to subject herself. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I tell you this much. She is so willing. Now, Dodson refused. He said he wouldn't allow it. And so again, Loseby appealed, and then he agreed to poll the jury. So the judge polled the jury, and the jury elected not to see this séance. WTF? If you were on that jury, would you have voted no? I mean, just for your own curiosity. And this would have history was being made here. We were going to see a séance in a courtroom in the Old Bailey. I mean, I don't understand why. Maybe there was some fun business going on again, because I said this was a setup over the kangaroo court. But no, it's just unbelievable. So the jury elected not to, so the trial went ahead, but then the defence case just collapsed after that. On the 24th of March, the jury came back and they considered their verdict. Guilty. And after the character assessment that Chief Constable West gave Helen Duncan, the recorder had no choice but to sentence her for the maximum 9 months in Holloway prison. And as she was taken down, poor Helen, she cried out in her strong Scottish accent, "I haven't even done anything! Oh God, is there a God?" It was the only time she'd spoken during the entire trial. Helen Duncan was released in September of 1944. She got some time off because she was a remand prisoner. On the 6th of June 1944, there was a mass amphibious landing off Normandy, France. It was called Operation Overlord, but history came to know it as D-Day. This is a book I recommend, Helen Duncan, Mystery Show Trial by Robert Hartley, because he's actually researched all this stuff and he's published it. It's a really, really interesting thing. Now, the history of psychic powers in warfare, it's nothing new. This connection between warfare and the paranormal has been around for a long time. This is Julius Caesar. Now, he used to consult a soothsayer before going into battle. And Alexander the Great has his own personal soothsayer who used to take on all his campaigns. In 1412, the King of France went to the town of Arques and found a young peasant girl, a 14-year-old girl, and put her in charge of the army because he believed she was getting divine messages from God. And little Jeanne Brunet, her name was, we know her as Joan of Arc. And it helped the French beat the English at the Battle of Orleans. Unfortunately, Joan was captured by the English and burnt. But we all know her story. So this connection between warfare and the supernatural runs very deep. Jail's a witch branded as a spy. Yes, indeed. I'd like to put it to you, to use legal language, that another hypothesis, another possibility of what was going on here. Helen Duncan was framed. She was set up and she was jailed because the government were terrified about what she could reveal. As I said, she was an unpardonable leak. So they concocted a case against her. They arranged for her arrest and for her prosecution using agents of theirs in the police, in the judiciary, to get her into jail. And in a way, I'm glad it's probably a good thing that they jailed her, because if they hadn't succeeded, if the case against her failed, they may well have killed her. This was war. A lot was at stake here. No one knew how it was going to end, like I said. This is a newspaper headline here from the 1990s about the whole issue. And this is Helen Duncan this is an older picture. She's older here. This is after the witchcraft trials, looking sad, looking self-reflective. She never really got over this situation. She spent these months in jail. She believed she was innocent. She was very, very bitter over the fact that she was not allowed to perform at her seance in court. She badly wanted to do that. She really wanted to get out there and to prove herself right. She really would have done, because that was kind of the linchpin of what she was going to do. She was disappointed because she really thought that she would be allowed to. Perhaps she was naive there. In October of 1956, she was performing at the West Bridgeford Spiritualist Church in Nottingham on what would prove to be her last ever seance. And again, just like at the Master Temple, the police burst in and there was a raid. And the Witchcraft Act had been repealed in 1951 and replaced by the Fraudulent Meetings Act. But they were still giving people like Helen a hard time sometimes. And in this raid, it was very, very bad actually, because she was badly injured. She actually suffered burns to her chest and her stomach. And she was then subjected to the police interrogating her basically. They called a doctor. They wanted the doctor to strip her and examine her like the nurse did in front of these big burly policemen. The doctor refused. You can imagine how shocking this was to Helen. She went home to her place in Edinburgh. She lived in Edinburgh. She went home to recover, but she never got over it. 6 weeks later, she died. And according to her supporters, she's been in touch ever since. There's a campaign to pardon Helen Duncan, which is run by Maggie Hahn, who's Helen's granddaughter. This has been going on in one form or another ever since the actual trial itself and the actual jailing of Helen Duncan. And now, though, there's been a lot of attempts to get an apology and a pardon from the government from Helen Duncan, but it's never really worked out. But now, they're really in with the best chance they've had ever. Do you recognise this man? Yes. This is Alan Turing. He's one of the greatest pioneers of computing and electronics. He came up with the phrase artificial intelligence. He started designing artificial intelligent machines back in the 1940s. In the 1970s, look at the pocket calculators they had then. This guy was doing it all those years earlier, inventing artificial intelligent machines. This guy's one of the most important people in the history of World War II, especially in terms of the British war effort, because he deciphered the Enigma code, a supposedly unbreakable German Nazi code that the U-boats were using. And it's funny because the German Admiralty didn't believe it when the U-boat captains were saying, look, these planes just come out of nowhere and attack us. this man should have been the greatest war hero of all, but it was not to be. The story of Alan Turing is tragic and shameful. In 1952, he found himself in the dock. He was prosecuted for acts of gross indecency under the sodomy laws. In other words, he was a homosexual, something that was completely acceptable nowadays. But in those days, it was a crime. He was a sex offender. He was sent to jail, but he was offered a deal. He would be released from jail on condition he underwent medical treatment to supposedly turn him straight. But this medical treatment ruined his physical and mental health, and in 1954 he committed suicide. There's been a campaign to get an apology and pardon for Alan Turing for a very, very long time. In 2008, Gordon Brown, the Prime Minister, made an official government apology to Alan Turing. But that wasn't the same as a pardon, so the fight went on. In 2013, David Cameron, Prime Minister then, pardoned Alan Turing in a landmark case which led to an amazing common law precedent, which is, there's now legislation going through Parliament, a statute which would be called the Turing laws, which means that if somebody has been prosecuted under the sodomy laws, or the Bruchray Amendment as they were known, they were repealed in England in 1967. So basically, if Turing had been caught after that, there'd be no problem. There's only one of these laws on the statute books that was a problem. Now, what this says, what happened with Alan Turing is basically, Alan Turing was pardoned for an offence that he committed, which was subsequently repealed. Okay, after he, well, sadly he was dead. It'd be better if he was still alive, obviously, but you know, this is a matter of principle. I think that's the answer here. It's exactly the same case in legal terms as Helen Duncan. So if Alan Turing can be pardoned, so can Helen Duncan. I'll tell you a little bit more about me. I'll let you know, as soon as I get updates, I'll let you know more about me. This is a book I've written. It's about UFOs. I've got a copy here. It's £10. Anyone want one? It's £10 if anyone wants a copy. And I've got another one here. This is only £5. This is an early book. It's a bigger book, but it's an earlier book that I wrote. So if anyone wants a copy of these, just come up and see me. But that's a book I've written there, because Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure. It's about a completely different subject. It's all about the UFO issue and Roswell and Crash of People's exopolitics. If you like things like that, you'll love that book. And I've written a sequel. I don't have any copies of that. You can get it on Amazon, and that's my second book. And if you want to know more about me, there's my website again, Hospital Porters Against the New World Order. And thank you very much for listening. And do I have time for questions? Or are you all too tired and want to go home? Understandably, if you are. But if anyone?
There's only one thing, which basically you got the attitude on. HMS Hood was not sunk by Prince Eugene. I think you're thinking that. No, I was Cameron said.
Was not sunk by Prince Eugen?
No, HMS Hood was sunk by the Bismarck. It was blown up. It lost virtually all the men on board, apart from I think about 8.
Okay, Julie knows it. Thank you. Anyone else?
Ian Fleming was in naval intelligence. It wasn't anything to do with deception plans for D-Day. He was in charge of forming a group called 30 Commando, who were after the D-Day landings, 30 Commando were to go to places in Nazi-occupied Europe where there would be secret command and things like that.
I read a book where that's actually, I think that's not the case. I can't remember the title of the book, but it refers to several acts of disinformation that were actually planted on the enemy during that period, in which Fleming was involved in, which included a hint that there was going to be an Allied invasion through Italy in the south first. I don't know the title of the book. If I find out, I will.
You mean Operation Mincemeat?
I don't know the name of it. Sorry, it's a book I read a while ago. And of course, Hartley talks about it in his book as well. Anybody else? It's getting late in that. Anyone, come up and get a copy of the book if you want. £10 for that one, £5 for that one, and thanks very much, all of you. Much appreciated. And,
1 minute, 1 minute.
to say a big thank you to Ben for that talk.
Okay, I'm back. I'm back in a very, very wet and damp Oxford. Back from the weird weekend north. And it's been a most remarkable weekend, I must say. It really has. You wouldn't believe what has happened. Well, something happened that something happened that I've never done before at a conference. I took part in a lard eating race. No, I didn't think you'd believe me either, but I did. It's been filmed. I reckon someone was live streaming on Facebook. There were cameras everywhere while I was doing it. What happened was, I was at this is Gloucester Green here, just to show you around. This is sort of like the big place where the market is. Yeah, I mean, there's raindrops on the lens. Yeah, it was organised by Richard Freeman. Now, I couldn't stay for the whole weekend. I turned up like on Saturday afternoon. Of course, it's an all-weekend event, so I only saw a small part of the conference. But Richard Freeman was there. Guy I only met him once actually, but I've been a big admirer of his work. He's a very famous cryptozoologist. One of the leading members of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, the CFZ. And he's written some books. I've read one of his books. It's called Dragons, More Than a Myth, and it's all about dragons. It's really good. He's written more books since then. But he's like, he had this book. It was a book by, I think it was Carl Schuker, I think, a cryptozoology book, a classic one, for sale. Well, it wasn't for sale. It was a prize in the competition. Now he had like these 2 half-pound blocks of lard, and he got like, he got a couple. He needed volunteers from the audience. He had 3 of them, so he had 3 blocks originally, and he needed 3 volunteers. One guy goes up there, and his name's Ben as well. This big guy with a beard and a kilt, a leather kilt. And then Richard says, "Come on, let's have some more of you. We got like a really brave North Country man. What about you limp-wristed Tory wimps from the South?" Well, that was enough for me. I was on my feet in an instant. Even though Oxford's not really the South. Oxford's actually South Midlands, not the South Country, so to speak. But I was on my feet in an instant. And he couldn't get a third one, so it's just me and the other Ben. And so we had to eat. It was whoever could eat the block of lard the quickest, or the most of it, as they could. And I ate the lard. I ate about half the lard of this block. And it was disgusting. I felt sure I'd throw up any minute. I was gagging really badly. But the other guy, Ben, he finished his block of lard. He says, that was nice. Licking his lips, greasy lips. And he shook my hand with his greasy hand. And now, lard's actually not... Lard's actually quite healthy. As it's natural animal fat. It comes from pork. I'm not Muslim, so there's no problem there, you know. And I ate half this block of lard. Honestly, I didn't feel too bad afterwards. I thought I was going to be sick or something, but I felt fine. But the other Ben won the book. He won the prize. He got this book. He got the famous book. This book by Carl Schuker. Classic cryptozoology book. Well, the other speakers were pretty good as well. There's a lot of cryptozoology speakers, a couple of Bigfoot speakers. Richard did a speech about Bigfoot, and then he introduced me. Because he had like this glove puppet. It was like a little monkey glove puppet, a ventriloquist dummy thing, and it had a CFZ T-shirt on, and he said,
Our final speaker for this evening is Ben Emlyn-Jones. He likes to boil kittens and eat them for breakfast or something like that. It's in these books. Oh yeah, that reminds me, I've got a good idea for a video. I just remembered, that'll be coming up shortly. Yeah, so but the other speakers were now the best speaker I saw. I mean, there was Steve Mary. I got there just in time. See, I was like, when I got off the coach, I got the coach up to Warrington. He just saw me on the coach, and I went to check in at my hotel, and I couldn't because it was too early. So I got a taxi to the venue, which is the Rixton with Glazebrook Community Hall, which is like a short ride. It only cost me 12 quid in a taxi. And then I got there just in time to see Steve Mayer and his speech. And I was actually speaking to Steve Mayer the evening before because I recorded an interview with him for Panmo Radio. And he and his wife Jackie were there. And he did a speech on the moon landing conspiracies, which was like pretty good actually. He takes a slightly less radical view than Marcus Allen, but he asks a lot of very important questions. He really, really does. Still can't see what's happening. There we go. And then now the most interesting speaker I saw was someone called Anne Winsborough, and she was talking about EVP, electronic voice phenomena, and that is really quite something. I mean, like, I've studied this an awful lot. I mean, I've even tried it myself. And it's, you know, you may be familiar with Don Phillips, so you may remember my videos I did with Don Phillips. He's like he's very keen on EVP. He calls it AVP, actual voice phenomena, and he's very keen on it. And it is, I think it is a serious issue and a matter, and I don't think it can be explained the way the skeptics say it can be explained. Because it's dismissed using several different ways. One of them is that there's the interference theory and the apophenia theory. And the interference theory is that because the recording device, whatever it is, it might be a tape recorder or an electronic digital recorder. EVPs have actually been located on all kinds of sound recording equipment, from the very earliest wax cylinders to modern mobile phone audio recordings. Now, the interference theory states that basically somehow, by some unknown mechanism, inadvertently, these devices are picking up radio transmissions from shortwave radio of various kinds and other kinds of commercial radio stations and things like that. And these are somehow finding their way onto the recording medium. And again, I mean, that's usually just an explanation without an investigation, because the thing to do, of course, would be to find out exactly, log when the EVP was made, find out what was broadcasting at the time on what station, but no skeptic ever tries to do that. Another is the apophenia theory. The apophenia theory states that basically there is no such thing as EVP. We're not hearing it. What happens is the natural ability of our brain to try to detect meaningful patterns out of random noise, it kicks in and creates the illusion of EVP. This is very similar to the pareidolia, which is where you tend to look at random shapes with your eyes. It's a visual equivalent where you see random images, images of random patterns, for example, and you impose on it shapes, recognisable shapes. A good example is when you look up into the clouds and you think you see a face in one of the clouds. There's no face there. The clouds are completely random shape-generating mechanisms, but you sometimes see a face because your brain has this natural ability to recognise shapes like that. Apophenia is the same. You think you hear recognisable words or sounds. in just random collections of bleeps and blips and hisses. But the problem now, this comes. I think I mentioned this on my recent Skeptic video. There's an inherent fallacy here, because the Skeptic will inevitably bring up these statistical objections, because we're talking about, when you bring up the issue of apophenia theory, you're inevitably bringing up a statistical claim, because the difference between random noise and a recognisable sound is a statistical thing. And the Skeptic will say, well, that's not, that it may sound like it may not, the Skeptic will say something, even for the best EVPs, will say, that sounds like a voice, but that's just coincidence. It's actually random noise, which, because of apophenia, you interpret as a voice. And of course, the problem, you're probably going to guess where I'm going with this if you've watched my Skeptic video. Okay, then where's the cut-off point? Because our interpretation of every sound is, in a sense, statistical. So you could play, what I mean by that is you could play a Skeptic a piece of music. You could play them a song by Billy Joel, or tune or classical piece by Mozart or Beethoven or something like that, or a jazz piece or something. You could say, prove to me that's not random noise. And they'll say, well, of course that's not random noise, that's a recognisable piece of music. And I said, really? Okay, so it's above the statistical ceiling. It's recognisable. Okay. So where's the statistical ceiling between the two? At what point will you, without any other notes, because you don't know where this music's come from, suppose it's a piece of music it's unidentified. They don't know who the composer or performer is. That's an important point, actually. At what point do you admit that this is too like a recognisable sound to be dismissed as random noise? Because unless you set that statistical ceiling, that cut-off point, you say where it is and why, then you essentially have an unfalsifiable hypothesis. Whenever you say it coincidentally sounds like a random noise, it's essentially an unfalsifiable hypothesis, therefore it's a fallacy. And I had an argument with Dr. Paul Rogers about this when I was at the ASAP conference in 2011. So yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, she's very that's very interesting. I've got to get her as a guest on her Panama Radio, actually. She'd be a very good person to talk to. But I do recommend looking these people up. Richard Freeman, you find at the cfz.org, and his work. I mean, his current project, his pet project, is to find the Tasmanian Tiger. Now, it's not the same thing as the Tasmanian Devil. That's a known species. The Tasmanian Tiger is a creature, or the Tasmanian Wolf, it's sometimes called. It looks, if you look at it, I mean, there's some very old footage of one that was in a zoo you can get on YouTube. It looks like a dog. It's actually not a dog, it's a marsupial. It's actually more closely related to kangaroos. And it lived on Tasmania, the island of Tasmania, off the south coast of Australia. And, excuse me, and it went extinct apparently. Those ones in the zoo, this was made in the early 1930s, they were the last ones in existence, apparently. But it's worth, Richard thinks they still exist. It's perfectly possible because Tasmania is actually very big. It doesn't look big on a map, because if you're used to the scale of Britain, but Australia is the entire continent, it's huge. I found this when I went to Australia, actually. The distances on a map were deceptive, because I was used to the scales of maps, looking at maps of Britain. Tasmania looks like a little Isle of Wight hanging off the bottom of Australia, but it's actually about the size of Ireland. Australia itself is 2,000 miles wide. So yeah, it's and there's only has a population of a couple of 100,000 people. Mostly live in the city of Hobart, which is the principal city of Tasmania. Tasmanians, incidentally, they don't like being called an island off the coast of Australia. They call the rest of Australia the North Island. That's typical Aussies. But he thinks it still exists. He thinks a lot of people have seen it. and he believes he can find one, and I wish him luck. He's an amazing character, Richard. They all are at the CFZ. I mean, I've always loved their work and their writing. Jonathan Downes is their kind of president, and he's an amazing writer. Written some amazing books. I do recommend them. Oh my goodness, I'm back. I don't have to work till tomorrow. And it's only about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's something. I've got Sunday afternoon off. Apologies for those of you who listen to Third Rail Radio. I just don't have time to do one. I'm not going to do one now. I'm too tired. I just takes a lot out of you, these things. I did my talk, which you've just heard, which, as you can hear, went down pretty well. I sold one of my books, which was nice. And now I'm going to go home and have a rest. And so, yeah. Well, let's just wipe this. Thank you all for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.
Oh my goodness, what's this? This was given to me, Ben Emlyn-Jones. This was given to me by Glenn, the organiser. And oh my goodness, what is it? It's a present. All the speakers got one of these apparently. It's a present to say thank you for appearing. What is it? Let's have a look. It's a mug. It's a tea mug. What's this? Oh, look. Oh, wicked. Weird Weekend North 2018. That's a Bigfoot, I think. And that's a UFO. It's a flying saucer. Oh, nice one. Oh, that's brilliant. I will put this over here with our collection. So I'll let the whole household enjoy this particular mug, although Achmat and Hossan don't really have any interest in these subjects. They probably won't understand it, but it looks good on our shelf anyway with all the other mugs. So thank you very much, Glenn. That's really, really nice. And thanks to Glenn and actually everybody who helped organise the conference. It was really, really good, the Weird Weekend North. Do go to the one next year because it's an annual event.